Hello and welcome. I'm Phyllis Smith. So excited today to introduce you to my guest. So, first of all, are you someone who doesn't feel like you're good enough unless you succeed at something? I mean, whatever that success looks like for you. My guest today debunks that thinking. He calls himself an emotional fitness coach. And in the last 6 years, he has coached hundreds of online business owners, helping them integrate their spiritual growth with profitable business strategies so that they can step into the role of heart-centered CEOs. He believes that integrating your spirit and your business strategy is the best way to create the impact and income that your heart is pulling you towards. I love that. Please welcome all the way, yes, from down under, I'm not kidding, Australia, Tyson Sharpe. Tyson, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. As soon as you invited me on, I'm always blessed to be able to share my wisdom and definitely give some value to your listeners as well.
So let's begin with, I just want to say also it's summer there and it's early in the morning based on when we're doing this interview. So it's like crazy, 17 hours ahead or 16 hours ahead of where I am right now in the Dallas area. What do you mean by emotional fitness coach? Walk us through that.
Well, to be honest, it was a term that I had heard in the personal development world. And I love that. I love the term, first of all, because it's sort of the quality of someone's life is always determined by the quality of their emotional fitness, right? Your emotional life, your emotional expression day in, day out is the quality of your life. It doesn't matter how much money you have or how much success or the relationships you have in your life. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of emotions you feel most often. Right. And so once I started shifting and started realizing that that was the catalyst of not only the quality of your life, but the quality of success that you have, then that's really something I started going down. I named myself that 6 years ago when I started my business. But now it's more towards spirituality and helping a lot of spiritual and light workers and heart-centered business owners really grow profitable businesses by integrating, like you said, the spiritual and the profitable business strategies. And so that's where I find myself now, is integrating all of that.
When you talk about integrating spirituality with business strategies, what does that actually mean? Where are you going with that?
Yeah, well, when I started obviously coaching a lot of people, and I started growing my online community, as you know, the Serving Circle. And as that started getting to thousands of members, I was talking to a lot of people, and it's very, very clear. You can talk to someone and you can feel when they're so heart-centered, they have this gift inside them that they're wanting to put it out into the world. And many people listening are probably in that situation where they're like, I just have this calling, this gift. I just want to put this out there, do what I love and get paid doing it. It was really when I started recognizing a couple challenges. One is that society and cultural norms don't really support that journey of our heart's leap, right? So then when people go and they start their own business, they find themselves it feels really out of alignment and really heavy with things like sales, things like marketing, right? Things like putting yourself out there in a way that's authentic, in a way that's vulnerable, in a way that's honest. And so that particular challenge helped me realize that a lot of people who are heart-centered really have a real challenge when it comes to implementing business strategies in a way that's aligned. And that's where I started integrating those two so that they can really start to build a business that's not only profitable, not only reaching more and more people, but in a way that is aligned, in a way that does feel like it is their heart's calling, so that they can do it from a place so they can enjoy doing it and also create the impact that, like you said, their heart is leading them towards.
I find, as a business owner myself of Live Free Yoga, co-founder, is that we tend to go into something or become a business owner of something because we love it. But what you're talking about is the sales and the operations, and there's these other things that are required in order to have a successful business. And I love when you're describing using your heart to integrate that heart, that love that you have for your business into those things. How do you do that? Like, I came from a world where for years and years, I worked in radio and television, and the creative people never jived with the salespeople. Like there was always these battles, right? Salespeople wanted to sell more advertising, and the creative people just wanted to have, put more stories and on the air, right? So how do you mesh that? Like, can you give some thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's important to realize as a business owner, both those disciplines matter. If I help people transform into what I call is the heart-centered CEO. The heart-centered CEO is the side of you that masters both. It's the side that knows that the more income you make, right, the more reach you can have, and the more reach and impact you have as a byproduct, the more impact you're able to make. And it's just this endless cycle of more impact and more reach creates more income. And because you're creating more income, your business is able to grow and expand where you're able to create more reach and more impact. And so it's that side of you that recognizes that I do need a lucrative and healthy business if I am to create this difference in the world, right? And I am to create this expansion that my heart's calling me towards. But it's also doing it in a way where you can feel that what matters most is this heart's calling, right? And if you have this heart's calling and this mission to, for example, a lot of my clients have just this mission to heighten consciousness or spread awareness or help people be more aware of emotions, right? And so if they're in the space of wanting to create a difference and wanting to create an impact as just within all of that, then it's both disciplines that really feed off each other. A lot of people think they're separate. They're not separate. Like they feed off each other because the more impact you're making, the more income you're making, the more income, the more impact. And it just feeds on each other, right? And it's realizing that relationship that I found when you couple those two, then you start to really feel like making money and sales and doing your marketing is fun. It's fun. It's aligned. It's just part of your heart's calling. It's part of your dharma. And that's what I found. If you're able to be really, really creative and find, really resourceful ways to market yourself, then you can do it in a way that's fun.
Yes, I think that I know for me that in my business, even when I'm writing a check to one of our yoga teachers, for example, on payroll, I'm like, I get excited because, oh, that means we made enough money to be able to pay the teacher and making a difference in the teacher's life because they're getting money, and then knowing that teacher went out and taught yoga to some students, some youth, and changed their lives. And so I think that that's where it sounds to me that's where you're coming from. If you really believe in what you're doing and that you can make a difference, everything else, is a part of that. And sometimes I think people feel guilty about making money. That money becomes sort of like a dirty word. What do you say to those people?
Yeah, there's some real big patterns that people need to look at there. And that was the same with me. Like a lot of people have, like I say, this calling. And then when it comes to sales, comes to money, they're like, oh, it's not about the money. It's not about that. And so then when they go to sell, it's very, very hard for them to do that because they've got some beliefs. They've got some unconscious or sometimes conscious beliefs that says, if I sell this and I'm to, exchange money, then I'm taking from them. And because I'm taking from them, they're lesser off, right? And so there's these unconscious beliefs that we run into and unconscious patterns that surface whenever we are afraid to sell, or we have this, sales call reluctance of getting on and doing these sort of things. So it really is an inward journey of really asking up the question of why are those patterns there? What are my beliefs here? And really what sides of me am I avoiding? Because if I ask this question all the time, I say, what is the worst case scenario? What is the worst case scenario, of for today or for the week or for the year, whatever it may be? And what that generally leads to is, if someone's scared of going broke, if someone's scared of being alone, if someone's scared of failure, if someone's scared of looking silly or making mistakes out in the public, whatever it may be, that gives you a highway into the sides of you that you've been avoiding, the sides of you that you're resisting, the sides of you that you haven't loved unconditionally yet. For me, when it comes to sales, that was me. I was trying to sell out of fear because I disowned the side of me that could go broke, right? The side of me that could go broke or could not make it or fail, whatever that may be. I disowned and pushed down that side because I had learned as a child that if I was to go broke or if I was to fail, I wouldn't be enough. I wouldn't be good enough. I wouldn't get the love that I crave the most. And so that's the side of me that I'm avoiding now. That's the side of me that I'm disowning and pushing down whenever I'm doing a sales call. Because I know if they say no and I fail, then I'm going to feel not enough. And so that's why I asked the question of what's your worst case scenario? What's your biggest fear? And that gives you a highway into looking in and saying, and giving you direction on what side of you you're resisting. And then once you love that side of you, you can start to expand that. And that's when you start to transform not only your business, but also your life as well.
So what you're actually describing is this inside out approach to transformation. This is we're in such alignment with that because when we teach mindfulness or anything we do, any yoga classes we teach, any of our workshops, it always starts from the self-awareness. And I know that was a journey that you took, and you just described, very openly how you thought of yourself if you failed, if you didn't make money, that you were not enough. But you also had an interesting journey that began with 6 hours of meditation one day, and that somehow changed things for you because you became more in touch with your thinking. Describe that for us, that experience.
Yeah, and a lot of people will register with this as well. When we are growing a business and we're putting ourselves out there and we're selling something and we're putting our heart on the line, a lot of people can feel the pattern of fear, right? Or doubt or worry or lack or scarcity. And what I found was within myself, I was building my business out of fear. I needed that next level of success to feel loved, to feel enough, to feel special, to feel unique, because it was an ego-driven pattern that said, if I succeed here, everyone's to see me as successful, and who I am is the opinions of other people, right? Or who I am is what I have. Who I am is what I do. All these patterns of ego. And I was building my business based on that. I was building my business saying, oh, if only I was to succeed, then I would feel enough and I would feel loved. And I was doing quite well. I was making my first 10K months. This is a few years into my business. My community was growing, and my content was getting a lot of engagement, these sort of things. And things were going well until they weren't, and life always tests us, especially if you're courageous to go on this diving deep into your spiritual journey. Life will always test you. And when you're that's what I was being tested because the money started drying up, the clients started drying up. Even some clients I had to get refunds through crazy circumstances. And at the time I found myself what felt like back to zero, along with the crushing of my ego, who was attached to results, attached to money, attached to what other people thought of me. And that's when I realized I was building my business out of fear. I was building my business out of this pattern that says I need to succeed to feel enough. And I realized all my clients were doing it as well. Everyone in the online community were doing it in the serving circle. The vast majority of people are growing their business out of fear and out of these patterns that I called their internal 5-year-olds. And so, like you said, I sat in silence. And instead of building my business out of fear, I started looking at the side of me that was scared. I just sat there and felt all of the fear without resistance, without judgment. I just sat there and felt it in my body, the tightness in my chest and the heaviness in my stomach. And I just sat there and just felt all of it. And to my surprise, with tears rolling down my face, it started to be expressed, and then it started to leave. And what I realized is that all your fears, doubts, and frustrations are coming up because they're ready to be released. They're coming up because they're ready to be seen. They're ready to be felt and loved unconditionally, so they can leave, so you can access the gifts that are within you once it's removed. And so that's what when I sat down and sit for 6 hours just in this chair and felt all the guilt and sadness and shame and everything, those patterns started to leave. And then I had such profound insight that I decided, you know what, I'm going to meditate in silence for 2 hours every day and just see what happens. My mind hated that idea. My mind was scared, which is exactly why I needed to do it. And so that was over 14, 15 months ago that I've been meditating 2 hours a day. And every single time, it's just a huge expression of just the patterns that I need to see within myself. And once they're able to leave and transcend, the guidance and gifts you get, you can pour into your business for not only fulfillment, but the success that you want to see as well.
Yeah, that 2 hours of mindfulness, that's quite a discipline. I want to suggest to people who are watching this right now, listening to it, that there's all kinds of research done about meditation and how it changes your brain. And to be able to change that thinking, first you have to become aware of what you're thinking and what you're feeling and all of that. And so you don't have to be scared like everybody has to do 2 hours a day. I just want to say that, if you could sit or do some kind of mindful meditation, whether it's maybe you were walking or, there's all kinds of different disciplines about being mindful, is being present. So if you can be present, either be still or be present, it clears up your mind. It gets rid of that clutter. And then it's amazing what opens up to you. It's really, really incredible. But that's quite something. And it does take a lot of discipline, and it does take practice. So, it's not like once a week, let's just kind of see what happens. It really takes practice. You say that there are 3 core principles or skills to master. And so if you would just tell us what they are and why is each important to your success? Am I allowed to use the word success? I want to make sure that I don't want people to feel bad about it,
No, there's no need to feel bad about anything, really. I mean, success to me is just the ability to really do what you want when you want to do it, and live what your heart is guiding you towards. I find if you can live your passion, then it doesn't matter what external success looks like in terms of the cultural norms, and you truly you feel successful. You feel like I'm living what I'm meant to live, but yeah, in terms when you talk about some disciplines, the first one I always have is around connection. It's the connection with yourself. This is the connecting with myself is the intention I have whenever I'm sitting down in silence. And I totally agree with you. It's like, it's not for everyone to sit in silence for 2 hours a day. That's what felt expansive for me. It's what felt scary for me. But it doesn't feel expansive for everyone. It might be 5 minutes a day, right? Or it might be, like you said, walking meditation, things like this. So it's not for everyone, but it was definitely, an expansive move for me. But connecting with yourself is really that's my intention. Whenever I'm sitting down in silence, I'm like, how can I connect more with myself? And that is generally feeling everything that's coming up, feeling absolutely everything in terms of all the fears, doubts, frustrations, noticing all of the thoughts, and just loving all of it. The more you love those sides of you, the more you love those internal 5-year-olds that are freaking out, that have particular beliefs on who I need to be and who I don't need to be and what my life needs to look like. The more you start to feel at peace, regardless of what's happening externally, right? And so connecting with yourself is truly the piece that I love. The second piece I help people really master is consciousness. It's like you have an ego side of you, which is just as beautiful, but it's unconscious, right? The ego that says who I am is what I do, who I am is what I have, who I am is the opinions of other people. But there's also a deeper truth where you're connected to something bigger. You're connected to spirit, you're connected to this passion, you're connected to this gift that you're here to give to the world. And connecting with that is truly your level of heightening consciousness. It's saying this is bigger than me. This is bigger than my ego patterns, and I'm on a mission here. And third is courage. It really does require courage for you to notice those patterns of ego, notice those patterns of how you define self, and take some leaps against that. Take some leaps that go towards more spirit and away from ego. And the more and that takes courage, because your mind is programmed to stay in safety. Your mind is programmed to stay in what's comfortable and what's familiar. But if you were to take a leap and start a business, or take a leap and start a YouTube channel or a podcast or whatever it is, your mind freaks out. But when you listen to your heart that says this feels aligned, it feels expansive, it feels exciting, despite it being scary, you have to generally love the sides of you that you haven't loved unconditionally yet. You have to love the sides of you that can fail, that can look silly, that can make mistakes, that can, go broke or whatever it is. And if any of those are triggering to you, it's more incentive to take that leap. And so it does take a lot of courage. But they're the three things that I would highlight that people can look at, is definitely their level of connection with themselves, their level of consciousness and in the way in which they're thinking and living, and definitely courage to take those leaps when it's necessary.
Yeah, it takes a lot of courage to be in business. I quit a full-time job a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago. I had started this business prior and doing both, and it just wasn't working because I was exhausted. I had a very high pressure job, and then I would be working during my lunch hour and in the evenings and on the weekends. And I just said, in order for me to completely dive and, let my business grow, I have to give that up. And that was a huge leap for me. And it's scary every day. Yeah. I wake up. I definitely can be of that mindset of I'm not enough, and in fact, I have a mantra I say for myself every day when I meditate, and that is I am strong, I am wise, I am capable, I am courageous, and I am enough. And I have to say that to myself every day, because I sometimes don't feel that way. And I can go into beliefs there. My dad was his life was his work. And so I get that. I see where it's coming from, but, to get into our 5-year-old self and say, we're okay without all of that, we're okay. And this idea of having that bigger consciousness, I think what's so important about that is when it gets tough, and it always does. Being an entrepreneur is like ridiculous. What we work 80 hours a week and get paid half the amount, or, but, you have you could have no life. It depends on how you can design your business in a way that you do have that. But at the end of the day, I think for me, that consciousness, knowing that there is this big picture, that there is something greater than myself and greater than this business. And that when things go wrong, it's really part of that journey. It's part of, you got to make a left before you make a right? And then at the end of the road is going to be this beautiful creation, that you've made, this beautiful business that, you've developed. And so, although those three are just are so important. Again, worth repeating: self connection, heightened consciousness, and the courage to leap. So there's so many things we can talk about. I go one more thing that you mentioned, and is that there's something you call an inner business sage. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, like how we all have an internal, these internal 5-year-olds running around. We also have these internal resourceful states. Some people might call them archetypes, but we have these sides of us. We have a loving side of us, right? The side of us that just loves unconditionally. We have a side of us that's playful, right? That's completely childlike, and this childlike wonder. We have sides of us that are courageous and determined. And these sides of us can run the show. And these sides of us operate in different ways from our brain, from our body, from our spirit. I believe we have also an inner business sage. This is the archetype that I allow a lot of my clients to condition within themselves. And that is the side of you that accesses so much wisdom, that has so much love and kindness, or what Lao Tzu refers to as the virtues. It's really the side of us that goes back to our core self, the side of us that is kind, the side of us that is towards service, right? Just shameless service, just service that is completely unconditional. The side of us that operates in life with a level of allowing and a level of surrender, and just being separate from outcomes and just sticking to a place where I know I'm in flow. I know I'm serving. This is what I call your inner business sage. The things that when you feel into them, are true. And so this side of you accesses that deep knowledge, that deep wisdom that you always know is there, and then implements that into your business. Like, for example, when I sit down and I was meditating for 2 hours one day, I was listening to my inner business sage that just said, you know what? As long as if you build a community and just fall in love with the art of serving, everything else will take care of itself. And this is, off on the back of me losing clients and basically going broke and not knowing what I'm going to do financially and all those different things. And I'm like, it takes a lot of trust to be able to just be like, I'm just going to serve and just know that things are going to pan out, know that things are going to work out. That's my base. My base is to serve. My base is to be in a space of contribution. And that's when I just followed that guidance. It took a lot of courage, but once I started following that, everything else fell into place in terms of people started to feel my heart. They could feel it in my content. The things that were coming through were higher level guidance. The community started growing. I launched this program that I was truly, truly proud of that, helped people become this heart-centered CEO. And, the financial side, the marketing, everything took care of itself. I ended up doing a 30K month. And I believe it was on the back of me not needing that. Life was now showing me, it's like, you're now open to receive, financial abundance, because you now know you don't need that to feel enough. You don't need it to feel safe, right? You're safe. And that's really where I started having this guidance that said, if you are the source of every dollar you've ever made, then you're the security, right? You're the one that is secure. You're the one that's safe. You're the one that accesses all this level of creativity. So it's found in you. It's not in the money, right? And so I truly just started to fall in love with serving and listening to that inner business sage. And everyone has this within them that they can start to tap into in silence as well.
Yeah, that trust, like, leaping off the cliff into the water. I like when you talk about that's what it feels like to just surrender. And you've alluded to it several times about not being attached to the outcome. And when we do get attached to the outcome, then our mindset shifts, doesn't it? And we become more desperate and working and living out of fear because we want a certain outcome. I have been guilty. I'm here to tell you, I've been guilty of that. I've been guilty of the fear and the doubt and the worry. And, when I meditate, when I get still, I'm able to come out of that. But as you said earlier, our brain is designed to help us survive, right? So it first thinks negatively because it wants to protect you. That's all it knows, is that you're freaking out. It doesn't know why, it just knows there's stress. And so, but to be able to take that leap, and that's why, working with someone like you, someone who can see that, who can who can step back and see what you're doing and help you see that. Those things, that's how you do it. I mean, we can try doing it ourselves, but we do need, it's so important to have someone else who can help bring that out and see that in us. And I know that you say you don't work with everybody. It's got to be a 10 out of 10 because, and you have a process where you don't just do a sort of a quick, assessment. You actually go into it, a full session with somebody to see if both of you feel that you're a good fit. So what are you looking for in a client?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I'll to share what you talked about just before. That was really the byproduct of me sitting in silence for a long time, for over a year, sitting in 2 hours of silence. The byproduct of that I couldn't see was that I can very, very quickly understand when someone has a pattern that they can't see in themselves. When they have a pattern that's circulating, that's keeping them stuck or keeping them safe and not allowing them to express their guidance and express their gift to the world, I can highlight it very, very quickly, and I can heal that pattern very quickly for them and in them, because I do it so often within myself. And I think anyone who's willing to take the journey of this internal exploration will find that as well. When you love all sides of you unconditionally, you'll love all sides of other people unconditionally. And whatever practice you're in, whether it's to do with sales, whether it's to do with business, whether it's to do with spirituality or personal development, that all heightens as a byproduct of you doing this inner work. So anyone who's willing to go on the journey, I commend you. And I definitely said that there are gifts that you can't see right now that will offer so much value in your life to other people and in how you offer value as well. So I'll say that. And then second of all, in terms of your last question, there aren't specific things I'd look for in a person. That there's no like criteria in terms of who I like to work with and who I feel is a good fit. It just comes down to that feeling. It's like when I have a session with someone, and a lot of people jump, a lot of people who are in the serving circle, the online community, who jump on the Zoom calls and are engaging with the content, I can sort of generally get a feel of where they're at, what's holding them back, where their heart is, what their intention is, where their values are at. And so it's getting on a call and doing a session or doing something that helps them just from a place of service. I can feel when they're aligned with me or not. And I can also feel if they're aligned with someone else. I'll get this intuition or this guidance that says they need to talk to this person. My physical mind doesn't know why, but I'm just like, oh, they need to talk to this person, right? Or I can feel when they are a right fit, when they will benefit so much from, from my content and my coaching and my teachings, all these different things. Like one of the people that jumped into the beta program I launched in 2020. She basically told me on the phone, I don't want a business. And she had so much fear around launching and sales and marketing. A lot of people that would just be on the external would be like, oh, okay, she's not the right fit. But I can feel there's something there that she needs to transcend and look at. And it just felt really aligned despite what she was saying. And now she's making 10K months. She's completely expanded her business. She's actually finding so much fun in marketing and sales and delivering for her clients. She just falls in love with the art of serving. And yeah, she's loving the results her clients are getting. And she loves her business. And it's just something you feel. There's nothing that is a tick box, the sort of the checklist that would allow me to reach that conclusion. Sometimes you just feel it, and you have to trust that.
Yeah. It's funny. I thought that I hated sales too, but I don't mind it at all. I love preparing for it. I love creating presentations. I love talking about what we do. When you love what you do, when you are heart-centered and you feel it, and it's in your cell, it's just part of you. You just want to share it. So I feel you. So we're going to wrap up. But before we do, two things. Number one, can you give us one thing today that people who are watching this, however they're accessing this, that they can do right away to get started on this path of true success, heartfelt success.
Totally. I say, no matter where you're listening to this, I'm assuming you have the ability to breathe. If you have the ability to breathe, you can do that now. And whatever you're feeling, welcome it. Whether it's fear, doubt, judgment, frustration, love, joy, creativity, abundance, whatever it is, whatever you're feeling internally, whatever's coming up, instead of avoiding it, instead of resisting it, instead of judging it, feel it, welcome it fully, and love it unconditionally. The more you do that, the more you'll love unconditionally these 5-year-olds that will allow these patterns to transcend. These emotions are coming up, not to be resisted or judged or avoided, but truly to be felt. They're coming up because they're ready to be seen. And as soon as they're seen unconditionally, as soon as they're loved unconditionally, they are ready to leave. So that's one tip I'll do, no matter what you're feeling throughout the day, accept it, surrender, allow it fully, and start to love those sides of you, those internal 5-year-olds. That's the one tip I have.
All right. And as you're saying it, I'm feeling myself breathe. It's beautiful. Totally. So how can people reach you? What's the best way that you'd like for people to reach you?
Yeah, a lot of people find me through the online Facebook group. The Facebook group's called The Serving Circle, where a lot of heart-centered business owners come together to not only meet, but they collaborate. So we all grow as one. People are loving that. And we get on weekly Zoom calls where, we're over 30 people now are joining each week. And it's just really a heartfelt space of connection and selfless service. And I feel like you can grow your business by being in a space of service and having that unconditional need to contribute. And that's what people are finding. So people generally find me in the Serving Circle. Other than that, you can jump on tysoncoaching.com and have a look there and see what kind of things that I have going on and learn more about me. But they're generally the two ways in which people find me: the Facebook group and also my website.
All right, beautiful. And I'm looking forward to participating more in the Serving Circle as well. So I think I've been invited. I ticked yes, and so I'm looking forward to that. Tyson, this has been so great. Thank you so much. You are bringing so much good into the world and helping people see the good and the value of themselves, and that you are enough. You are enough, and you would tell, it's like, would you tell somebody else if you saw your child and your child was saying to you, I don't feel like I'm good enough, would you say, well, you're really not? No, you would say they are. So I think that's beautiful, and I love the work you're doing, and I look forward to connecting with you more in the future. Thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.